7 months into the newest generation of consoles, and it seems that Sony is beginning to change their tone when it comes to cross-generational games, those that are releasing on both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, because as of today, June the 2nd, it has been confirmed by Herman Hulst that not only is God of War going to be a cross-generational title coming out on both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, but Gran Turismo 7 is as well, and that's in addition to Horizon Forbidden West. Now, before we dive into everything, this is Xhibition, an Xbox podcast. If you enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button on youtube.com/jampacksam, which is my own personal channel. I appreciate all of the love we have been receiving recently. And on top of that, if you enjoy the audio feed, be sure to head over to Spotify or a podcast service near you and hit that subscribe button. But today's news that we are discussing comes from the PlayStation blog, where the blog asks Herman Hulst, how does PlayStation 4 factor into PlayStation Studios' development vision? Is it still a focus internally for future game development? Herman Hulst replies, saying it very much is. You can't build a community of over 110 million PlayStation 4 owners and then just walk away from it, right? I think that'd be bad news for fans of PS4, and frankly, not very good business. Where it makes sense to develop a title for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, Gran Turismo 7, we'll continue looking at that. And if PS4 owners want to play that game, then they can. If they want to go on and play the PlayStation 5 version, that game will be there for them. That being said, it's also very important to have showpieces for PlayStation 5, hence the development of Returnal and Ratchet that are exclusive to PlayStation 5, end quote. What is the strategy here from PlayStation? And on top of that, how does it compare to Xbox, which has been taking this cross-generational approach since the very beginning before the launch of the Xbox Series X and S? PlayStation originally said that they believe in generations. This comes all the way back from Mark Cerny's presentation digging into the power of the PlayStation 5 and that there were so many experiences currently in development that were only possible through the power of the PlayStation 5. While I am sure there are plenty of games in development that take exclusive power from the PlayStation 5 and make their experiences possible, it stands to reason that God of War and Horizon and Gran Turismo 7 and so many others are also possible on the PlayStation 4. So the power of the PlayStation 5 might have been exacerbated just a little bit. But all of that's beside the point. Now it seems Sony is shifting their approach, and to be quite frank, as Herman Hulst says, it makes more business sense to release these games across both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, especially considering what games you see going for that cross-generational approach. You have games like Ratchet & Clank and Returnal that are PlayStation 5 exclusives, and those are very big exclusives for 2021. But you have the biggest PlayStation franchises, your God of Wars, your Horizons, your Gran Turismo 7s, also coming out on the PlayStation 4, which, as Herman Hulst points out, has an install base of over 110 million units worldwide. That's a lot of people that don't have their hands on a PlayStation 5, but that do have a PlayStation 4. Between the discussions of the semiconductor shortage and the adjustment of the way the PlayStation 5 is actually being produced, it stands to reason that a lot of people are going to be waiting a little bit longer to get their hands on a PlayStation 5. Now, I personally do not think that supply constraints are as constrained as many people think that they are. As somebody who pays very close attention to the Twitter feeds and tries to stay up to date on the availability of new hardware, when it comes to an Xbox Series X and S and even a PlayStation 5, I could generally find one within about 1 to 2 weeks if I was really trying to stay with my hand on the trigger. You can probably find one if you want one badly enough and you try hard enough. That being said, a lot of people aren't going to pay attention to the Twitter feeds. A lot of people just want to be able to walk into a Walmart, a Target, a GameStop, a Best Buy, and pick up their PlayStation 5, and that simply is not possible right now. And so until that widespread availability becomes a reality, the PlayStation 4 is a fantastic platform for Sony to sell some of their biggest sellers on, and it makes sense for them to continue supporting this. The main issue here is with the messaging itself. The first party situation that Xbox is experiencing is similar in a lot of ways to what Sony is experiencing, albeit in a slightly different way. On Xbox, there's just a lack of first party support, especially in this first chunk of the generation. A lot of projects are in the pipeline, but as it stands right now, there really isn't a big standout reason to upgrade to an Xbox Series X unless you want to have the newest and latest next generation experience. In a similar kind of way, if you're just looking forward to the Spider-Man Miles Moraleses, if you're just looking forward to Horizon Forbidden West, if you just want God of War Ragnarok or Gran Turismo 7, you don't really need a PlayStation 5. On top of that, continuing down in the PlayStation blog asks, how does PC fit into the worldview of PlayStation Studios moving forward? Herman Hulst replies, quote, "We are still early on in our planning for PC, and Horizon Zero Dawn has been very successful. I think it shows there's an appetite from gamers outside the PlayStation ecosystem to experience the amazing portfolio of games that PlayStation fans have enjoyed for years. But I want to emphasize that PlayStation will remain the best place to play our PlayStation Studios titles at launch." That's the key. At launch. But we do value PC gamers and will continue to look at the right times to launch each game. Ben Studio just released the PC version of Days Gone on May 18th, so that's about 2 years after the PlayStation 4 release. And I hope that a new set of fans can and will enjoy that title, and that's the goal. We want to reach new gamers who have not yet experienced the great stories, characters, and worlds that we have built. Releasing games on PC will not come ever at the expense of building an exciting lineup of great console games. While PlayStation will never sacrifice what the PlayStation brand brings through their console experience, it's clear they're also focusing on PC, a strategy that's very similar to what Microsoft is bringing to the table. The biggest takeaway here is that Sony is having to pivot because of COVID-19 and production issues associated with COVID-19 and the availability of components. But to do this, to pivot, they are taking a lot of moves from Microsoft's playbook, where you're focusing more heavily on the PC ecosystem. You are not abandoning the last generation of consoles just because you believe in generations. If a game is possible on a PlayStation 4, it makes sense to release it on the PlayStation 4. The biggest message that I want to drive home here today is that if you are playing on a console, whether it be last generation or current generation, the experience the developers need to deliver has to be a quality experience regardless of where you play. Now, of course, there will be sacrifices on the PlayStation 4 versus the PlayStation 5, and on the Xbox One versus the Xbox Series X and S. We see this already with Resident Evil 8. But if a developer brings a game to the PlayStation 4 and to the PlayStation 5, it cannot be impacted because of limited technology. The SSDs that exist on the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and S should be utilized to their fullest potential, and if you are bridging the gap between these generations, you have to ensure that the loading times on the PlayStation 4 are well disguised, or at least minimized as much as possible, to create such a unified experience that it feels like you're playing the same game, regardless of where you are playing. The next generation is going to feel much, much better, but you still have to have a solid experience on the last generation consoles. And this is not something I'm limiting only to God of War or Horizon Forbidden West or Gran Turismo 7. When it comes to games like Halo Infinite, that game is still slated to come out on the Xbox One as well as the Xbox Series X and S. This game does not need to be held back by the hardware that it's releasing on. I think that's the biggest concern that so many people have, and there have been a lot of discussions about PC-style architecture on gaming consoles in the modern day that make a scalable kind of experience possible. I agree, that's a big part of compatibility, but there's a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of tricks, a lot of hoops to jump through to make sure that the experience is solid no matter where you're playing. And that is a major key when it comes to not only the success of a game, but the success of building a positive reputation for years to come. So once again, to recap, we now have Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and God of War Ragnarok all coming on the PlayStation 5 as well as the PlayStation 4. And on top of that, there's not even a solid release date for Horizon Forbidden West. If I had to guess, that's going to be a 2022 game as well, probably somewhere around between March and May. It feels like a spring release in my opinion. As the year goes on, The year looks less and less filled with games and more so just digging into the backlogs, which I am perfectly fine with. But again, it looks like it's going to be a cross-generational couple of years for the Sony ecosystem. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you are watching on youtube.com/JamPackSam, I would love to hear your thoughts. And on top of that, you can hit me up on Twitter at JamPackSam to share your thoughts there as well and kickstart some conversations around God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Xbox, and so much more. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.